Let's talk to God. One more thing, like, subscribe, and share. Come on, let's talk to God. Woo!
Hey, good evening, everybody. It's Cutler here on the Let's Talk to Cutler vlog broadcast, and I'm thankful for another Thursday. I'm just glad to be here with you all. I'm glad you all are here with me. I just want to shout out a few people in just a moment, but I always want to make sure that I tell people, if you're just stopping by for the first time, this channel is about inspiration, motivation. It's not a focus on negativity. It's not about beating people up. It's not about the latest gossip. It's not about the latest rumors. It's not about what's in the grapevine. It's not about whose marriage is breaking up. It's not about whose family is is dysfunctional. It's not about any of that. But it is about inspiration. We have enough negative stuff that we hear during the day, every single day. But this is a pause, a break for us to just stop and make sure. This is a time for us to pause, stop, make sure, and see what nuggets can I get from today that will just catapult me into a better today tomorrow. I usually try to show up for about 1,800 seconds. So I tell people, listen, give me 1,800 seconds, come on in, and let's get some motivation and inspiration. And sometimes we're challenged. We're challenged to do better based on the conversation. And we've been talking about a number of things, and I want to share something with you today based on some of my experiences today. But before I do that, do me a favor. If you haven't already done so, please subscribe. And if you've already subscribed, tell a few other people. Come on, let's talk color. This channel is about taking a break during the day, taking a break and seeing how can I show up better tomorrow based on our conversation. I also like to shout out the LTTC VIPs. Just that's to get you all just jumping into the chat room early to see who gets into the chat room. So I want to say a special hello to the LTDC VIPs this evening. They are Tracy Johnson. Tracy says, hey, everyone, good evening. Good evening to you, Tracy, my friend. I hope all is well. And then my good friend Queen Nita says, good evening, everyone. Good evening, everyone. Good evening to you. And I am also ready for the ride. And I want you all to do me a favor. I have a young friend by the name of Joshua. Make sure that you keep him in your thoughts and your prayers. So that's just a shout out to Joshua to let him know that he's definitely in my thoughts and my prayers. So Queen Nita, make sure that you tell him that. All right. And then let's see who came on in next. From my end, it looks like the third person who jumped in was McDiana, who says, good evening, all. Glad I received a reminder. You know what? Sometimes I have to get a reminder for my own broadcast. I really, really do. But this evening, you all, I want to talk about how to disagree. I want to talk about how to disagree because it seems like thank you so much, Tracy, for letting us know that you're praying for Joshua. And anybody else who wants to put comments in the chat to Joshua, to my young friend Joshua, and let him know that you're praying for him. That would be fantastic. I'm sure his mom will make sure that he sees all the messages, and that will make his day. All right. But it occurred to me that we don't know how to disagree. We don't. Somewhere along the line, we have been programmed or conditioned to think that a disagreement automatically is a fight. And that's not the case. That's not the case. So I don't know if this is motivational or inspirational or challenging. I think this is going to challenge us with how we communicate with people. A disagreement is not an argument. It's not an argument. It is not a fight. And so many times that's how we take it. We fall out with each other. We stop speaking. Our children stop speaking to each other. Our grandchildren stop speaking to each other. And years later, we don't even know why they don't speak. We block people on social media. We badmouth each other because we disagree. Disagreeing, let me tell you what disagreeing is not. Disagreeing does not mean that we're fighting. Disagree. When was the last time you had a disagreement? I want to know that. So let me just put that out there. So as you're joining me in the chat, I'm curious, when was the last time you had a disagreement? Because a disagreement doesn't mean that we're fighting. A disagreement does not mean that I don't like you. A disagreement doesn't mean that I don't like your idea. I can still like you, but we disagree. I can like your idea, but we still disagree. Tracy said yesterday she had a disagreement. Disagreeing does not mean that I don't think there's value in your idea. Okay? It doesn't. Excuse me. So it does not mean that I don't like you. It doesn't mean that I don't like your idea. It doesn't mean that I don't think there's value in your idea. Disagreeing simply means this. It means that I don't think your suggestion is the better option given the set of circumstances. Think about it. I don't think that your suggestion is the better option given the set of circumstances. I like you, but I don't think your option is better right now. I don't think your suggestion is the better option right now. I even like your idea. I don't think it's the better one right now, but I like it. I see value in your suggestion, but I don't think it is the better option right now. That's all a disagreement is. It doesn't discount your value. It doesn't discount you as a person. It doesn't discount your idea. It doesn't do that. So then what do we do, Cutler, when we come to the table and we realize that we are, as we say, we're butting heads and bumping heads? What do we do? Because I think one of the things that we're all keenly aware of is that it's not always what you say. You all know this. It's not always what you say, but quite often it's about how you say it. So I want to give us a few tips about how to disagree. It's word choice. It's all about word choice and tone. Because you all know I'm country. I'm not just Southern, but I'm country. And we say a lot of things like you can draw more flies with honey than with vinegar. And that means if you add sweetness to your words, sweetness to your tone, it does not necessarily mean that you're sugarcoating what you have to say, but it means that you're very conscious and conscientious about how you say it. You're considerate of the impact that your words will have on the other person. I'm always concerned about what impact are my words going to have on someone else. So I'm concerned about how I say a thing. And people will tell you, oh, you're not worried about what people think or what they feel. Yes, you should. Yes, you should. I can be firm in my convictions, but I'm concerned. But I'm concerned about the impact that they have. I'm chuckling at some of y'all said, I asked, when did you have a disagreement? And I'm reading the comments yesterday, today, 2 days ago with you. I do know who. Yes, I do. All right. So let's talk about how we can say a thing, how we can get our point across. Because people will be repelled by our tone and by certain words. If you disagree with someone, rather than saying no way, consider this. Consider saying, I don't think so. Because for me to say no way, that means I know all of the options, I know all of the suggestions, I know all of the possibilities, and so I don't necessarily know no way, but what I do know is this: I know that I don't think so. I could say, I don't think so. And I'm with you. I tell you, I love when you all chat, because when you all put your comments in the chat, it gives me an opportunity to include you in the conversation. Tracy, absolutely. Tracy says, that is why I don't like texting about serious issues. People can take it the wrong way. Absolutely. People can take your words the wrong way when they don't hear your tone, because what they would do, they would interpret your tone based on how they would have said what you wrote. Does that make sense? Many times people will see what you put in text and they see the words and they would try to put your tone, your voice to the words, but they're using their tones because they look at the words and say, well, if I use those words, I would have said it like this. And that's not always the case. That's not always the case. So Tracy, thank you. I highly recommend when you have to communicate about a serious issue, make sure that you do it where the person can hear your voice. And even where they can see your face and see your facial expressions, because many times it is a nonverbal communication that is just as important as the verbal communication. All right. So then think about it. These are just some examples. Instead of saying no way, how about saying, I don't think so? And then instead of saying, I totally disagree. Why would you say, I totally disagree? You can say something like, I'm afraid I disagree, or I beg to differ. Instead of saying, not at all. I'm just giving y'all some helpful phrases and clauses. If they work for you, they work. If they don't, they don't. I'm just trying to offer a different art, a different strategy of disagreeing. Consider your tone. Instead of saying not at all, no, not at all, say not necessarily. Well, that's not always true. Or maybe that's not always the case. Or no, I'm not sure about that. We can use those tones. All right? We can definitely use that tone. And then I don't even know if I'm going to be here the full 1800 seconds with us tonight, because I had some experiences today, and that's what really is prompting this conversation. I want us to learn to be better at disagreeing. Be courteous when you disagree, even if you feel like you want to interrupt. Be courteous. I was on a conference call, a work-related conference call earlier this morning. A couple of my staff members were also on the call. And one gentleman said, while another one was talking, he just jumped in and said, I'm going to disagree with you. I'm going to disagree. Well, when he jumped in and said, I'm going to disagree, I said to myself, no, he said, I'm going to interrupt you. I'm going to interrupt you. And I thought, no, you're not going to interrupt. You're interrupting now. And you're no less polite by announcing that you're going to interrupt. You're still just as rude. I'm going to interrupt you. What about you say something like, may I add something here so I don't lose my point? Is it okay if I jump in for a second so I don't lose my thought? If I might add something, so that way you are still courteous even when interrupting. You might even want to say, is it okay if I throw in my 2 cents here? And if the person says no, be respectful of that, because that person may have a one-track mind and may lose his or her thoughts, his or her train of thought. We have to be considerate. We have to be courteous, even when we're going to interrupt. Thank you. Tracy offers another way of saying something. Maybe you might want to do this or do it that way. MV says, if you disagree with someone, they will say that you are being difficult. And which is why, MV, which is why I say that one of the things that we have to do is make sure that we're careful about our tone. So that way, if they accuse us of being difficult, we know in our hearts that we aren't being difficult. There will always be matters for us to disagree. But make sure that we don't throw the baby out with the bathwater. Make sure that we're focusing on the principle and not the person. So then here are just a few strategies that I would like. I just want to offer these. I know sometimes people say, oh, you're being difficult just because you disagree. But let me just offer these strategies. And they still may walk away and still call us difficult. MV, they might. But here's what we're going to do. to position ourselves and make ourselves better. All right. Excuse me. Excuse me. I am catching or have caught a cold and I'm getting over it. And let me just pause for just a second. So I had this cough yesterday, and I hadn't been around anybody. I've been working out in the yard, and I said, does COVID just float through the air? Let me make sure. And fortunately, my the test, those in-home tests came right on time, because I was concerned, knowing that I hadn't been around anybody without my mask on, but I was concerned. You all, I took that swab out and put it up my nose so fast. I said, I've got to make sure that I'm good to go, because I plan to see family next weekend. So I am good to go. But I want to talk about strategies for disagreeing. Here's the first thing. Don't expect to always be right. Don't expect to always be right when you're disagreeing. I just need to toss these out. And you all can give me some strategies that work for you all in terms of disagreeing. What works for you all? Strategy. Don't always expect to be right. That's number one. Number two, listen. Listen. Be so intentional with your listening, and be active in your listening. And then here's another one. You all are probably, somebody will probably disagree with me about this one, but I have to say this. If it's not a material issue, sometimes you just need to concede for the sake of the relationship. If it's not going to make or break you, if it's not going to change the world, if it's not going to upset the balance of nature, sometimes we just have to concede for the sake of relationship. If it's not going to change your world, and you see that you're dealing with an obstinate or stubborn person, and what they're suggesting, it's not the best solution. It's not the best option, but it might work. If it's not a big material issue, you say, sometimes we hear things like, this is not a mountain I want to die on. Or sometimes you just got to pick your battles. That's what I'm saying. If it's not material, if it's not a big issue, concede for the sake of the relationship. There were times when I was strongly convinced that my option was the better option. There were times, let me make it a little more strong. There were times when I was thoroughly convinced that I was right. But what I realized is that there were some times I had to concede for the sake of the relationship, because it was not a big material issue. It wasn't a material issue. So I want to share some of the things that you all are saying, because I'm reading these comments, and yes, Linda, you're absolutely right. You're absolutely right. I think we need to share, let me put this up here. We need to share this with younger folks or older who think guns or other violence solves it. How to disagree. Solving issues. There's a way to solve and resolve issues without guns and without violence. Because when you think you can solve or resolve an issue with gun or violence, you don't get a do-over. Somebody will have lost their life. Thank you, Linda, for helping me to put this in that perspective. This is a serious matter. We think sometimes disagreeing is just a lighthearted issue, but when we don't know how to resolve our issues, and people resort to guns and to violence with resolving issues, they lost the fundamental principle of how to disagree. They lost that fundamental principle of how to disagree. Tracy says listening is very important, because usually we are just thinking about the person to stop talking. We are just thinking about the person to stop talking so we can get our point across. Absolutely. What happens a lot of times, as soon as people get their thoughts out and they start framing their opinions, what do? As soon as we hear the first 10 words that come out of their mouths, we start framing our opinions. We start framing our responses on the first 10 words. And so we've lost the next 30 words that they're saying, because we focus on the first 10 words. So our response is going to be on the first 10 words, and we lost the next 20 or 30 words that they said. because we want them to stop talking so we can get our point across. Thank you for sharing that, Tracy. It happens. Envy says, sometimes I will say, I can see why you feel that way. Absolutely. Envy, thank you so much. Many times when we are disagreeing with people, acknowledge that there is value in what they're saying. As we do, so do they want to know that they matter. They want to know that they count. They want to know that there's value to what they have to say. So many times we have to say that to them. I can see why you feel that way. We have to think about those things. So a few more strategies that we just might want to consider along the lines of Tracy of what you were saying. Make sure you understand the issue clearly before objecting. Sometimes we object to something and the person says, that's not what I said. Have you all ever had that situation? Someone objected to something that you said. Excuse me just a moment. Maybe someone objected to something that you said, and then when they told you what they objected to, you said to them, that's not what I said. That's not even what I said. So to make sure that that's not us, make sure we understand the issue clearly before we object. How do we do that? Ask questions. Restate what you heard. And that really is a part of listening intentionally, listening actively. Ask questions. Restate what you heard. And when you restate what you heard, I do it many times. I will say, what I understood you to say is this. And then I wait to make sure the person responds and say, well, no, that's not it. Oh, yeah, that is it. That is a good strategy. Excuse me, if I may say so myself. I know that cough really came from the chest, didn't it? But you all, let's make sure that we clearly understand the issue before objecting and say to the person, what I understood you to say is this. Or did I understand you to say such and such and such? Make sure you understand, because you don't want to object, as my godmother would say, loud, proud, and wrong. Or she would say loud, proud, and incorrect, or right loud and right wrong. But we don't want that to be us. And then, as MV was saying, consider the benefits of the opposite view. Make sure that you tell people there is some value. I see value in what you're saying. I see the benefits of what you say. I see the good in what you say. I see the worth of what you're saying. Make sure that you acknowledge the value of another person's opinion. All right? And then don't make your disagreement personal. Don't make your disagreement personal. Focus on the problem and not the person. Focus on the problem and not the person. And then just one more that I have. I just have one more to offer in terms of a strategy. I told you all we may not be here the full 1800 seconds. I just have this one more. Respect the value of the opposite view. Respect the value of the opposite view. There's value in much of what people say. We need to learn to respect the value in the opposite view. I just wanted to talk about how to disagree today, because I was in two settings. One where someone just jumped in and interrupted. They just jumped in and interrupted a person. I'm going to interrupt you. No, you just interrupted the person as soon as you said that. And then I had another meeting. I had another meeting where an individual said, I just want you to know this. I heard what you said yesterday. And I saw the value in what you said yesterday. I said what I said yesterday and left it alone. I wanted to make sure that I was understood. I wanted to make sure that I was respectful. I wanted to make sure that I was courteous. And I offered my opinion in what I thought was a respectful way. And that's why I'm saying sometimes you have to be, or most times you have to be concerned about the impact of your words. I offered my suggestion yesterday. Person thought about it and came back today and said, I heard what you said. I recognize the value in what you had to say. And I applied your suggestion. All right. I hope that helps us. Let's see. Your comments have been wonderful. And Tracy has asked, let's see, point. Get out off point because we're here to chat. Do you think we can have some talks some days about caregiving issues? I think many might find to be helpful. Absolutely. Absolutely. I think that is a great topic because, Tracy, what you might not know is that several listeners, many of you are in a caregiving capacity. Some people have been caregivers for 2, 3, and 4 people, and I think that is a great topic. So yes, absolutely yes, we can talk about caregiving issues. All right, and I think I'll probably be able to share from just some personal experiences and personal knowledge, but absolutely we can do that. But you all, let's go and tell the world. Let's go and tell the world how to disagree and tell them that disagreeing doesn't mean I don't like you. I took a course early on during the pandemic. I took a course at Harvard Divinity School. And it was about religion, conflict, and peace. And one of the big issues was we disagree when sometimes our principles are the same. But because we don't examine the principles, because we don't examine the foundations, and we only hear in part and we process in part, and we don't seek to find common ground. When we don't seek to find common ground, we will disagree and we will forget the fact that our feet are standing on the same ground. I think that sums up our conversation. Let's find common ground, common value, common respect, common courtesy. Hey, you all, tell somebody, come on and let's talk to Cutler. And do me a favor, let's keep building community. Let's keep maintaining connectivity. Stay safe, stay sane. Keep your heads up, keep your hopes up, and know this. From my heart to yours, there is and always will be much love. I'm going to go and take a cough drop because I've coughed more times than I need to doing this broadcast, but I'm feeling fine. All right, you all take care. I will see you next time. Good night, everybody.